Welcome to the Anti-Aging Seminar. Today we're going to answer a question: is it possible to reverse the aging process, or at least slow it down? I believe it is. So before we get into how to do that, I want to talk about a big problem in healthcare we're running into right now. And that has to do with there is no prevention. It's all treating symptoms. It's not preventing anything. So let me just show you something right here. This is a book called Frank Nader, MD, Endocrinology. And we're going to talk about the adrenal gland because there's an aging hormone. It's called cortisol. And cortisol will make you older. And so you need to know about it. You need to know how to undo it and slow it down. And this is what it says. The normal adrenal gland has an enormous functional reserve. Indeed, the adrenal deficiency does not become clinically manifest until 9/10 of the adrenal has been rendered unresponsive. Now, what does that mean? That means that before it shows up in a blood test, it has to be 90% destroyed. You see the problem? If you wait for your adrenals to be showing up in a blood test, it's too late. And the same thing goes with the heart. Does anyone know the first symptom of a heart attack over 50% of the time? Well, guess what it is? It's actually, there is no symptom. It's death. You just die. So sometimes your body gives clues, sometimes your body does not give clues. You really can't go by symptoms. Same thing with the liver. Your liver has to be almost completely destroyed before it shows up in a blood test. So what we're going to get in today is some of the problems, some of the solutions in relationship to the anti-aging cycle. All right? There's two situations. You have, right here, you have creating health, okay, versus treating disease. So the medical model is this over here, treating disease, and that's basically what they do. I want to set up a new model, and that's called creating health and avoiding disease. It's completely different. What we want to do is we want to stay over here. And how do we create health? Well, through your foods, the nutrients in your foods, the type of exercise, the sleep, the things you're doing to reduce stress, all these things are creating health. And of course, the counter-creating of the health is just the opposite. You know, it's what you're putting in your food as far as junk foods, bad foods, artificial things, alcohol, not sleeping, stressing your body out. All those things are counter-creating your health. But there's also something else, and that has to do with doing nothing, all right? Doing nothing is counter-creating your health because if you do nothing, your body's going to fall apart. So if you sit on the couch all day, you're not going to create any health, are you? You're going to counter-create your health. So here's the thing. Here's the problem with treating the disease model. What happens is that the doctor says you have to wait. You have to wait 6 months, and we're going to test you again. So every 6 months, we're going to test you. We're going to test you until you have this disease. Well, by the time you wait, you're already going to have it. So my suggestion is that we actively and aggressively create your health now, because the odds are against you. Do you realize that cancer takes 20 years to grow in your body before it even shows up on a test? 20 years, that's 2 decades. So you really can't wait. And then because when you wait and then you actually are diagnosed, it takes incredible energy to undo this thing. In fact, when you get chemotherapy, the success rate after 5 years is only 2%. So the disease model, treating the disease model doesn't work. It's very, very expensive, and the prognosis is not very good, and there's a lot of side effects because the drugs create other complications. What I suggest is we do this. We really focus on this creating health thing, because this is all, if you want to know about anti-aging, it's right here. It's all about creating your health. It's about creating your cells healthier. It's like building this thing up. That will make you younger. I'm doing it personally. In about 3 years, I'll be 50. I feel like I'm 20. But when I was in my 20s, I felt like I was 90. So I've been actively building up my health and creating my health. And I will tell you that this model really works. So my goal with you is to make you more aware of this right here. Put your attention on this, okay? Because every single day, whether you know it or not, you're either creating your health or you're counter-creating your health, which is basically creating disease. So there are little actions that you can do each day that make a huge difference. But there's really 2 mistakes that people make. Number 1 is waiting until they have a problem. And men are notorious for this because they tend to be more macho, or they wait and they don't want to admit that they have weaknesses. And I treat a small percentage of men, but only because their wife dragged them to my office, and then they decide, okay, I'm ready to do something about it. But women tend to be more responsible. Hopefully you men in the audience are going to be more responsible today. But what we want to do is we want to not wait anymore. We want to take action. Waiting never works because sooner or later you are going to have a health problem. I know some of you have parents or grandparents in your family right now that just out of the blue got sick, and now all the family is sucked into trying to help this person. So waiting always leads to more problems down the road. So that's mistake number one. Mistake number two is that you have no health goal, or your goal is too small. It's like, what is your health goal? Well, I don't know. I'm just going to wait till see what happens to my life in a couple years. My goal for my body is to get younger every year that I get older. Does that sound like a good idea? Yeah, absolutely. Because if you do that, if you actively create on your health, then guess what happens to this disease state? You avoid it. In fact, it's like learning karate, then no one wants to fight you. You're actively countering and bulletproofing your health for the future. And so that way you take yourself out of the risk factors and out of the state where your doctor's saying, hey, let's wait in 6 months and let's test you and see when you have it so then we can treat you with the drug. I want to aggressively, actively promote and create a health reserve that you are totally bulletproof for the future. Now let's talk about the 3 mistakes that people make repetitively over and over and over without really knowing they're making a mistake. The first mistake is these things called antioxidants. Now I know some of you are taking them, vitamin E and vitamin C and I guess the Chinese herb tea that you're drinking and the ginkgo biloba and all that stuff. Well, let me explain something. The whole free radical theory is a myth. Now, before you reject that, because I was the guy that was pushing that at one time, thinking that there's these free radicals going around destroying our body, making ourselves older, until I started to go and read some of the studies that were done on these antioxidants. So let me read you a couple. These are scientific studies that will show you that the antioxidants either don't work or they make you worse. Check this out. Here's one, the alpha-tocopherol, that's vitamin E, beta-carotene, that's vitamin A, prevention study. This was done on 29,000 people, okay? It increases, taking antioxidants increase the risk of cardiac death, stroke, and risk for coronary events, okay? The trial was stopped early, all right? The next one called the polyp prevention study, done in 751 people. Neither beta-carotene or vitamin C or vitamin E reduced the incidence of tumors or polyps or prevented any polyps, okay? And then we had another study, the physician study. This showed no difference in the incidence of malignant cancer, stroke, or cardiovascular disease or overall mortality in 12 years of taking the supplement. Here's another one. It says there's no significant difference in major coronary events, but significantly more deaths from fatal coronary heart disease. Is this mind-blowing or what? The actual solutions that people are trying to take, the actual vitamins that people are taking, are actually making them worse. Now, how can that be? Let me explain something. In nature, all vitamins come in complexes, okay? A complex is a series of complex parts that make up a whole. Now, let's just take the vitamin C complex here. We have one part called the ascorbic acid. That's the antioxidant portion of the vitamin C complex. And it also has some cofactors here, vitamin J, vitamin P, that's the bioflavonoids that you probably have heard about. And then you have copper, that's a mineral. And then you have vitamin K. So this is what makes up the vitamin C complex. Well, when you're taking these antioxidants, and all those studies, most of the studies we're doing on synthetic vitamins and synthetic antioxidants. They weren't using natural antioxidants. So anytime you take a vitamin fraction or a part of a vitamin out of the normal complex, you create deficiencies in the other factors. I had a patient go to Mexico, he had cancer, and they injected him with over 100,000 milligrams of synthetic ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C. And this guy came back with the worst vitamin C deficiency that you ever have seen in your life. He had bleeding gums. He had spider veins in his nose. He looked like he had scurvy, which is a vitamin C, because he was very tired. And he had varicose veins and hemorrhoids, which are all vitamin C deficiencies. The very thing that you're taking in high dosages, but synthetic, are creating the deficiency. And do you know how many people are doing that? They buy cheap vitamins that are, believe it or not, made from petroleum products. They're not natural. They're not from plants, but some people say there's no difference. Well, let me ask you this. Is there a difference between artificial flavoring and real flavoring? I mean, I think there is. I believe there's a big difference between synthetic and natural. So anytime you take artificial synthetic fractionated vitamins from the complex and take those in mega dosages, you're going to be creating problems. And I can prove it because right in the studies, all those were done synthetically. Mistake number 2, taking hormones. All right. Now I know there's a lot of people are doing the bioidentical hormones and doing synthetic hormones, and let me just explain some challenges. But before I do that, I just have to explain what a hormone is because it can be very complex. First of all, that you have to know there's 600 hormones in your body, and when you add a hormone into the mix, you create a lot of confusion. But what happens is that hormones are communications that are sent from one part of the body to another, and they travel through the blood. So these are hormones. And what makes a hormone are things called glands. And it usually goes to some other part of the tissue, like let's say this is the ovary and this is the pituitary. So you always have these glands that are sending, receiving, and then returning communication, just like you would talk to someone. You know, you talk to someone, they're supposedly they should be listening to you, and they should be acknowledging you when you talk to them. You're not going to talk to someone they're just sitting there not acknowledging you. Same thing with the body. So anytime you have too much of a hormone, you have a certain problem. Anything not enough, you have a completely other set of problems. So here's the problem. When you take hormones, you actually shut down the gland. You make the gland not have to produce. You make the body now dependent on that hormone. Same goes with thyroid, any hormones in the body. That's why I'm not crazy about taking hormones unless you tried everything. Here's what's really missing. No one is looking at the glands, repairing the glands, healing the glands. This is the secret to anti-aging because you have to be able to know what to do to heal the glands. Now, one of the biggest things that destroys your glands are a thing called endocrine disruptors. What is an endocrine disruptor? An endocrine disruptor is anything in the environment that can destroy or interfere or mimic other hormones, and specifically it mimics estrogen. And you know that estrogen has a tendency to cause cancer and trigger cancer. It can create lots of problems for you too. So even some of the anti-breast cancer drugs are things that block estrogen in the body. So endocrine disruptors are any chemical like pesticide, insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, heavy metal, country and western. I'm just seeing if you're awake. All these things in the environment that are messing up your hormones. Golf course, the pesticides, it's everywhere. So what happens, what you have to do is you have to be aware of that, number one, and you have to be able to detoxify your body from the endocrine disruptors. It just so happens there's a wonderful set of foods that you can eat right now that can dismantle these chemicals from your liver without creating any detox reactions. Now, would you like to know about that? Would anyone like to know about that? Okay, you would like to know about that? And they're called cruciferous. Okay, cruciferous are those vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kale, and these vegetables that not very many people are eating have the ability to reach out from your liver and pull these chemicals, dismantle them, and deactivate them. Why? Because these things cause cancer. They create disease. Thank goodness that we have our own food supply. We have things that can protect our bodies. My favorite food is kale. Why? Because kale has the most nutrition of any plant on the planet. It's the healthiest food that you could possibly get. Does it taste good? Well, that's a different topic. But it's good for you. It's a little bitter, but you can mix it with different things. Kale is my favorite because it has anti-cancer properties. It can make your cells young again. It can pull these chemicals out. So to salvage the gland, we need to be consuming cruciferous. And you know what's really cool about that? Only 3 cups of cruciferous every single week will decrease certain cancer rates by 48%. Okay? Just remember that, because these phytonutrients have special properties that, if eaten in their complex, not synthetically, can create massive amounts of anti-aging properties. Okay, so let's look at something here. As you age, every single year you age, your hormones are declining. That's the good news. I mean, that's the bad news. So let's look at this. This is an aging over time. There's hormones that are decreasing with time, and there are hormones that are increasing with time. All right? The ones that increase with time are the aging hormones, specifically cortisol. That's the bad hormone. That's the one that causes belly fat. That's the one that destroys your collagen in your skin and your joints and your arteries, that can set you up for strokes. Okay? That's the one that makes you old, inside and out. It keeps you from sleeping. It sets up a situation where you can get autoimmune diseases. I mean, think about what cortisol is. If they inject you with it, it's an anti-inflammatory. So that means that all the inflammatory diseases are adrenal. Why don't they fix the gland? That's a good question. So cortisol, that goes up as you age. And let's say this is 50 years old right here. Okay, 50 years old. And then we have this other one going down, is called growth hormone. Okay? Now, growth hormone is not just about growing. It's about making you young. Growth hormone is the main anti-aging hormone. It occurs when you're sleeping. So if you're not sleeping, it's not working. The other thing that triggers it is exercise, but not any old exercise. And I'll get to that in a moment. But this is a very, very important thing that decreases. And that's why it's so hard to lose weight as you age, because this is the main hormone that burns fat, especially in your belly. Okay? So what we want to do with the anti-aging strategy is we need to get the glands healthy. We need to get cortisol down to 0 and get growth hormone as high as we can. All right? So that's what we're talking about. So what we want to do, we want to understand what gland or what organ does growth hormone work through? Liver. What destroys the liver is alcohol, even wine, beer, Mad Dog 2020, and also a lot of cooked proteins, a lot of cooked protein powders. The soy powder is very bad for the liver. Soy protein isolate powder is very bad for the liver. When you actually have these powders at your house that you're taking, look at the ingredients. Make sure it doesn't have the soy, because it's very bad in the liver. In fact, they found it increases tumors in your liver. So we have the thing that the liver loves is bitter vegetables. And there we got the cruciferous again. We keep coming back to those darn cruciferous vegetables. Now, the only thing green that I ate growing up was pistachio ice cream and lime green jello. I never ate any vegetables until I got out of college. And that's why I hit bottom. I was very, very old on the inside and going down real rapidly. I hit bottom when I was 28. But I decided at that point that I'm done. I'm ready to get my body in the best shape that I've ever been, because if I didn't, I would end up in serious shape. So I've been consuming a lot of cruciferous, my favorite is kale, for probably about 15 years. Why? Because I found that was the food that heals the liver. And so that's why I want you to eat that as well, or eat similar types of food. So the liver needs bitter vegetables to heal itself. Okay? So now, let me show you something. A strategy that I use to help people get younger is increase this growth hormone. And by the way, you can buy it. You can buy it from you can actually have your doctor order it for you. It will regenerate your organs within 3 months. It will lose a lot of weight. You get lean body mass. It costs $12,000 though. But it causes diabetes as a side effect about 3 to 4 months later. So remember I talked about when you take a hormone, it activates your gland that makes it. So there's another way to increase growth hormone by 450%. Does anyone want to know what to do? How to do that? Anyone? I don't think you guys are really ready for this. Maybe I'll show you at the next seminar, the advanced seminar. You want to know? Okay, fine, I'll tell you. So to increase the growth hormone by 450%, what we want to do is we want to do a type of exercise that is called interval training. That would be the short little workouts with lots of rest, back and forth. You can do little hopping on stairs, you can do bike riding, you can do little jogging things, you can do jump rope, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the key is the interval short rest as compared to jogging doing marathons. Okay, you will not increase the growth hormone. So the type of exercise that they found that increases it is interval training, all right? But here's the problem with some of you. You're not ready to do interval training yet. Because when you exercise, you stress your body out and then you stop. What's supposed to happen, you're supposed to then recover and get healthy and burn fat right here in the recovery after the workout, 14 hours later. But most of you, your recovery is so bad, and I'm talking about your body's ability to rejuvenate, you're not ready for the interval training because it's more of a stress. See, here's the thing. It's not about the quantity of exercise, it's about how your body can recover from that exercise. I wrestled in college. I was undefeated for the first week. And then I was the worst guy on the team because I would work out twice thinking more is better. The point is, it's about your ability to bounce back from things. There is something in your body that is actively getting you to recover from stress. Actively. It's an active machine. I'm not going to give you the long name for it, but there's something that helps you to recover. So let's just say you run up a stairs, okay, and you get to the top. How fast does your pulse rate come back to a normal range? Well, guess what gets your pulse rate back to that normal range? This specific system. So it's called a recovery system. And then you also have something that reacts to the stress to get your pulse rate to adapt to the climbing of the stairs too. So in any given moment, you're constantly reacting to stress and adapting to stress, reacting and adapting to stress. So this brings up the next most important thing, and that is the aging hormone called cortisol. What destroys your body is stress. How many have ever experienced stress at least once before? Got one person, and I'm being sarcastic, all of you. It's okay to experience stress as long as you can recover from it. So here's another secret. If you experience stress, make sure you actually do things to extract the stress as you go through stress. Because unfortunately, we can't move you all to an island right now on the beach for about the next 6 months so you can rejuvenate. So you're going to have to do things to undo the stress. What I do for my body is I teach people how to do acupressure. It's a non-invasive way of extracting stress, because that way each night you can pull the stress out. Because here's the thing, all stress is accumulative. Your bodies are like buckets, and you're filling up with stress every day. And if you don't get rid of it, that sustained stress will burn you out. A lot of you mothers in the audience are experiencing that. You put your body on the back burner until one day when you get after menopause, you're like, what the heck happened to my body? Because you've been putting yourself on the back burner. Like I said, it's okay to experience stress as long as you can recover from it and you can keep going. So sleep is vital. Extracting stress, doing things to decrease stress is vital, because stress is the #1 killer out there right now. And a lot of you are going through lots of massive stress. So I want you to do things every single day that actively get rid of your stress or reduce your stress. Why? Because you can't escape stress, but you can do something about it. You can actually handle your physical body's ability to adapt from the stress. So like I said before, there's a program that I put people on that actually help them recover. But sometimes that's confusing to people. They want to what do you mean recover? Well, I mean bounce back. How do you know you have low recovery? Well, how is your tolerance to stress? Do people get on your nerves? Do you have a low tolerance to incompetent people? Do you get on edge? Do you get overwhelmed? That means you lost your ability to recover. Okay? The more you lose your ability to recover, the less exercise is going to help you lose weight, especially in the midsection. Why? Because that's when all the fat's burned. All right? So this recovery thing is everything. And to build up your recovery in your cells, get them to adapt better, is probably even more important than anything. So you want to adjust your exercise to your ability to recover, okay? So we have two things going on. We have the reaction to stress and the recovery from stress. And we want to be able to react to it, but we have to adapt to it as well. And this is one of the most important things. So let's say you're stressed right now and you don't know what to do, and you're probably you're overtraining. Well, just do walking right now and build up to it over a period of time. But the key is never to overtrain, because again, if we can get you to recover better, we can increase growth hormone, and we can then make you younger as you get older. Mistake number 3, not isolating and being aware of and getting healthy your weakest link. All of you are going to die of something someday. The key is knowing what you're going to die of. Is it going to be the heart? Is it going to be cancer? Is it going to be the pancreas? Is it going to be the liver? Is it going to be an artery? What is it going to be? You're as strong as your weakest link. And what you want to do is you want to identify what weak links you have and put a lot of attention on creating health in that area. It's so simple, but people don't look at it like that. Now, how do you know your weakest link? Look at your parents. Do they have diabetes? I know some of you are on medication right now. Well, that would be a weak link right there to start with. I mean, if you're confused with what weak link you have, you can get help from me, or you can just start with the heart, because most people die of a heart attack. Some of the common things that destroy the heart are vitamin B deficiency, coming from eating too many refined grains like breads, pasta, cereal, crackers, biscuits, waffles, pancakes, muffins, things like that, and sugar. That will destroy the heart faster than anything. Also, it depletes you of vitamin E, which then will cause a different type of heart problem, which is like heart attacks, angina. That's why vitamin E is good for the heart if it's done naturally. But how do you become deficient in vitamin E? By consuming too many of those refined grains. Breads, pasta, cereal, crackers, biscuits, everyone's doing it. So we want to avoid those to protect your heart. We already talked about the liver. It doesn't like a lot of cooked protein. It doesn't like soy powder. It doesn't like cooked fats. It likes raw, bitter vegetables. Okay, what about the pancreas? Well, it doesn't like sugar. It doesn't like hidden sugars like juice and like the hidden sugars as MSG in some of the Chinese restaurants and the fast food places. All right? So all these things are very, very vital when you're talking about healing the body and getting younger. You don't want to take a global approach. You want to take a specific approach and take one organ at a time, take your weakest link and bring it on up. Some of you are so stressed out, your adrenal glands need to be rejuvenated. That would be a good place to start, because if you take that weak link and you bring that thing up, guess what you did? You allow the anti-aging hormones to work in your body just by automatically bringing that darn cortisol down. And that cortisol is at the heart of so many illnesses, from degenerative disease to autoimmune to cancer to burning out the heart. So that would be a very vital goal.